Welcome, Pallavi.
Thank you, Swati.
Yeah, because to boldly talk about certain things, I really need somebody into sex therapy and intimacy coaching, and who better than you? Today, we're going to talk about masturbation. Yeah, so we'll talk about what's going on in terms of men and women and their self pleasure practices. No fap, which of course we are getting to hear from everywhere.
It's like how a boy starts out is like from the age of 2 or 3, he's asked to hold the penis, So that there he is developing a relationship with that body part by holding, touching, seeing.
Yeah.
For a girl, there is no such mechanism that we have to hold our vagina, we have to touch our vagina, we have to see our vagina.
What is the advantage of self pleasuring or self pleasure practice?
That yes, I pleasure myself, I touch myself, I feel good about myself. In fact, there's this there's this female client, and she said that my husband, she's not interested in sex, and after watching your videos, I could get the courage to buy a sex toy because recently this man, he reached out to me and said, it's my wife's birthday, I want to gift her a sex toy.
I also have this opinion that you shouldn't depend on it all the time. Now, since we are on the topic of masturbation, we have to discuss no fap. As a movement, what is happening?
A lot of men can also run into ED or P like issues, erection issues. However, it is, in a Harvard study says that to avoid the risk of prostate cancer, you need to masturbate or release the ejaculation in a certain intervals. Like a lot of people, they think tantra is about massages. It's like, they say, do you give tantra massage? So tantra massage, again they use like, okay, it's a ecstatic massage experience, but where that can include a happy ending.
Hello and welcome to Stories with Maya Zama. We have Pallavi Banwal again with us, intimacy coach and founder of a sexual wellness startup called Get Intimacy. Welcome, Pallavi.
Thank you, Swati.
Yeah, because to boldly talk about certain things, I really need somebody into sex therapy and intimacy coaching, and who better than you? Yeah. So, some really eye opening conversations we have had. Thank you so much for your inputs and all the examples that you bring. You run these communities so you know what people are giving you as first hand experience, right? Today, we're going to talk about masturbation. Yeah, straight away, I'm just heading into the topic. So, we'll talk about what's going on in terms of men and women and their self pleasure practices. No fap, which of course we are getting to hear from everywhere. And now, I think in the month of now or so, yeah, all that. And a little bit about Tantra, conscious sexuality, and all of that also we can explore in this. If not in depth, probably we'll just browse through it so that we can have a proper conversation maybe next time. Yeah. Anyway, so I want to hear about all these things from you. I would like to start with the fact that the most commonly asked question in a sex ed class for parents is, why is my child touching their private parts? Is it okay? Is it normal? What the hell are they doing? Should I stop it? Should I encourage it? Should I discourage it? What do I do to handle it? So I made a video also, proper, long, elaborate video on how it's a normal, healthy sexual practice. It's an age-appropriate sexual development. That if they touch their private parts, it's just plain curiosity. It's just self-soothing behavior. It cannot be considered as masturbation. So all of that I mentioned. Now, yes, it has a role to play in future because they will definitely figure out that this behavior can get me a sexual peak at some point of time, and probably that figuring out happens during preteens or probably during teens. Now, how do you see this self-pleasuring practice or masturbation practice in boys and girls when they start out on their self-pleasuring journey? Say they figure out that this part of their body gives them immense pleasurable sensations. It has a lot of nerve endings, and I'm feeling this particular feeling which is like nothing like I've ever felt before. It's obviously different for girls and boys, no, when they figure out. Yeah.
See, even when we talk about the biological or physiological process, like how a boy starts out is like from the age of 2 or 3, he's asked to hold the penis.
Right.
So that there he is developing a relationship with that body part by holding, touching, seeing.
Yeah.
For a girl, there is no such mechanism that we have to hold our vagina, we have to touch our vagina, we have to see our vagina.
Yeah.
So that's a huge difference that boys and girls start out with, because that's a biological advantage that boys have over girls in terms of getting familiar,
Did they-
getting used to, habitual with their private parts. and that plays role. Of course, the masturbation word, even though the act is same, the intent is different. I'll talk about the intention. Like, it's the touching of the body part for curiosity versus touching of the body part to get a sexual peak.
Okay.
So for boys, yes, as they are holding their penis and for the peeing, and we do it multiple times a day, and then yes, it's mostly an accidental discovery. No one discovers it like, okay, some elder person has come and given the gyan about it, but it's an accidental discovery that touching here feels good.
Yeah.
And they feel good, and for them, that's all about it. Whereas girls, I will say, even now in this era we are talking about, there is a period shame. There is some discomfort, because we all know that trauma is generational. Trauma is intergenerational. So definitely we women have inherited our trauma, ancestors' trauma. So it's not like complete, there is a wall that, okay, now there is a period liberation. No. So a lot of girls, when they first go through it and they go through the pain, and there is not enough education or comfort or even a dialogue, like to just inform it versus having a dialogue and just getting, because I say, how many wives even talk with their husbands about their periods?
Yeah,
In
yeah,
detail.
true.
So I think that's where, for a girl, the act of touching her genitals comes quite late. Yes, there are accidental shower discoveries, who suddenly you have a shower stream, and then it goes, and then it feels pleasure. A lot of women have talked about girls, at how, as girls, they would just put the faucet near, accidentally the faucet is diverted towards that part, and they feel a surge of pleasure. So those are some accidental discoveries, maybe riding a bicycle, or, like playing with a pole and touching your body on a pole, and you feel that accidental friction, and then you get that pleasure. So yes, for the girl, it's a delayed discovery, which also leads to delayed empowerment, because masturbation, I will call it, as also an act of self-touching. And if you have not touched this part of your body, you are not aware about it. It also leads that you are not completely owned your body, or completely, that means that if you don't know enough about your body, you can get exploited. Your boundaries can get violated because you don't know about your body. So that comes at a delayed stage, and that's why they say that for a woman, her sexuality blossoms in her 30s and 40s. It's the reverse. Like, they say a man's sexuality declines. They say they get erection problems, but I feel a woman's sexuality wisens up with age.
True, yeah. And coming to that point of girls exploring it late, I would say there are a lot of cases where they have never explored also, and they have never figured out also, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I get these ladies coming in at 30, 35, 40, 45, etc. into these workshops and telling me that I don't know what an orgasm is, I don't know what part feels good. And when we have these videos about vulva and vagina, that is when they say, oh, I never thought these two are different. Or when we talk about clitoris, they're like, oh, I never knew this thing existed. So if I don't know it, then how will my partner know it, right? I can't blame my partner for not giving me an orgasm or not helping me attain pleasure when I myself had no clue about this particular organ that was there in me. And after classes, I've heard girls say, I have to go back and check whether I have clitoris because I've never looked at my private parts.
Yes.
I've never seen it, touched it. Even during periods, there are so many girls who try not to like directly touch it.
Yes.
They're pretty ew. It's like a disgusting thing for them to even touch their private parts.
Yeah.
So that brings me to this question, Pallavi. What is the advantage of self-pleasuring or self-pleasure practice? As an adult, what kind of an understanding about your body or your sexuality does it bring?
I think self-reliance. I mean, it's one of the acts of self-dependency, that you can depend on yourself. And personally speaking, I have been single for long periods of time, and I did not want to go into any casual sex or hookup, and I wanted to be in a committed relationship, and that was not happening. However, sex is also a need. Like, there are urges, there are biological urges, and I feel like at that time, when I could touch my body and I can get pleasure. In fact, there's this there's this female client, and she said that my husband, she's not interested in sex, and after watching your videos, I could get the courage to buy a sex toy, and now I please myself, and for me, that's my lifeline. That's something. So I do say that to an extent, yes, it helps you, fulfill your own needs, fulfill your own need for pleasure, fulfill your own need to, see that body part. Like if I touch my hand, I feel pleasure, which means it is capable of experiencing pleasure. And, so I think that's gives you
Realize the potential.
potential. So that's one, self-reliance, self-pleasure. Also, I feel that you are better able to communicate your needs in the bedroom if you clearly know that, you know what, I touch myself and this is how I feel it, and you need to do it like this. So that we feel hesitation or inhibition or awkwardness, or how do I say, how do I put, I think that goes away when you are unashamed, you are I will say uninhibited about your self pleasure, that yes, I pleasure myself, I touch myself, I feel good about myself. I think that self confidence it brings in the bedroom.
Yeah.
It also helps you in better exercising your boundaries. A lot of men, I would say, they are also clumsy lovers when it comes to even touching the vagina, because if it's like, oh, you are just using some random fingers, and you can end up hurting yourself. So you can also tell what, where do you draw the line, how do you say no, because I feel lot of sex is, we always think that sex is about yes, but I feel a good sex is not possible without boundaries. Good sex life is not possible.
Absolutely. You need to say what is okay, what is not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, only then they will know what is okay. Right. True, very true. I also recollected this friend of mine who told me how she discovered an orgasm at the age of 40, 41, again with a sex toy. And she said, I never knew this would feel like this because all these years I've lived, I've been in a marriage, all these things, but I've never experienced it. So that brings me to the whole market out there about sex toys. What is your opinion about sex toys being helpful in a person's life, in a couple's life, or for self-pleasuring practice? How does it help?
I personally love sex toy. I mean, even when I'm married and I have a active sex life with my husband, and I could also see, how men get insecure about sex toys. A lot of times they think that, okay, she's just okay with that, and it's not like that, that if I enjoy it, I'm okay with it, I'm going to replace my husband or my partner with a sex toy. That's not going to happen. But I do see that, probably for a lot of women, there is a discomfort in terms of using the sex toy when they are with a partner. Single women, of course, for them, sex toy is as handy as a lipstick. Like they carry in their bag, and it's like a regular companion when they go on trips. For me also, it had been like a companion. When I would go on a trip, I would keep my sex toy. So I would say that yes, they are a great tool, great, I will say, companion to a woman's pleasure. With sex toy, I think that, the ease is good. Like I feel, if I have to give an analogy, sex toy is like a washing machine. Just like if you have to wash your clothes yourself, it's going to take you a hell lot of time. It's going to take you a hell lot of effort. You put the clothes in the washing machine, you switch the buttons, and then, hooray, it gets clean. So I think sex toy just makes it easy, makes the pleasure easy. But you don't end up marrying your washing machine. So you keep your washing machine handy, you keep it, it's like a juicer, mixer, similarly sex toy. So I feel men should not be insecure about, rather they should encourage. It's not like ultimately I will need a human being. I'm not going to just be with a sex toy and be in a sologamy for that matter. So that's one thing I see, that yes, a lot of men are still getting warmed up with the idea, because recently this man, he reached out to me and said, it's my wife's birthday, I want to gift her a sex toy.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's our anniversary, I want to gift her a sex toy. So that thing has just started, where they are like, okay, they see it as a gift, and this is just started. I'm talking about like long marriages, 10 years, 3 years, 2 years, where they are getting warmed up. Where men are also thinking that they have a role to play in female pleasure. It's not always that she has to go out in the market or log on and buy sex toy for herself. I can also gift as well to her.
Right.
So
Yeah, right. For me, Pallavi, I have a not a different approach, but I'm seeing it very differently. Wherein when these girls come for these workshops and all, when they say they're not connected with their body, they haven't touched it, they don't know how it'll look like, how it'll feel like. I don't even want to go to that space of figuring it out. In those spaces, I have seen sex toys help a lot, wherein you don't have to directly touch it, explore it, but then this will give you that a slight buffer
Yeah.
You don't have to directly like touch it. So a lot of people who have gone through abuse or traumatic situations and all, when they are so disgusted to enter that space, toys have helped them bridge that gap wherein, okay, this is there, it's not me. Okay, let me just keep, try it somewhere in that zone. And then maybe when I'm comfortable, I can bring it towards the erogenous zones, and then maybe I can stay away. I don't have to directly touch. So a lot of girls have got back to me saying that way it has helped us figure our bodies out better, how we should have actually figured it out at 15, 16, 17. Now at the age of 27, 29, 35, 40 and all, we are able to figure it out because of this. Because it would be probably years of shaming and years of disgust towards their genitals that the sex toy would just probably solve it in few minutes. So that I have seen happen. On the other hand, since I take a lot of sessions on mindfulness and slow living and being more connected to your body and all that, I also have this opinion that you shouldn't depend on it all the time. So yes, it is good. Use it as a tool to help your bodily understanding or to help your marriage or sex life in some way. Both of them are enjoying. Okay, all that is there. But at the end of the day, our bodies need to be stimulated with very gentle touches. Our body is
Yeah.
happy with that. Our body should be tuned in such a way that it can respond to gentler touches, gentler approaches. So when that is the case and when we depend on sex toys too much, I feel, yes, again, the threshold goes up wherein you need that level of stimulation to actually get you there wherein your body would have responded to this level. So what I suggest women is mostly, try if you want to figure out, if you want to bridge that gap, if it's helping you in some way, your partner is okay, go ahead. But try to wean yourself off it if possible, whenever you can. That will connect you more to your body. In fact, your body will start responding to subtler sensations, I would say. So that is another way of looking at it, I would say. I'm not against it or anything, but I think two ways of looking at it. Yeah. Pallavi, when it comes to adult sexuality and self pleasure practices, do you see any problems in that journey wherein, especially men or even women for that matter, have you seen any problems in couples of overdoing it, not even trying? I think for women, I think one point we just mentioned was I've never tried it, so I never knew it, so I'm figuring it out at 40, 45, which is something I would say we won't wish on anybody, right?
Yeah.
No, we should get that misfortune of figuring out what an orgasm is like at the age of 45, 50. And I also think of this sometimes, Pallavi. Many of our mothers, grandmothers' generation, they would not have even experienced it, right?
Accidental discoveries might have
Might have happened,
possible,
might have
but,
happened. But I don't think a voluntary exploration would have happened. I really don't think so. I'm not sure. Because if they had known about it, they would have passed on the information, no? To young girls. Right. So I want you to talk about, especially because women, I think this is the whole thing. Whether either they are figuring it out when they are teenagers, or accidental discoveries, or maybe, yes, thanks to social media and thanks to all this propagation that is happening about self-expression, they're figuring out. Or maybe 45, 50-year-olds, they're figuring it out. For men, what is going on? Do you see any challenges, issues?
a lot. The way a man attempts masturbation is hyper focused, I will say. Like, he starts with the penis itself. Like, the act starts with the penis itself, and then it starts with the high speed, and that high speed continues till the time he reaches that climax, and then it's done. So, and then the grip, like it's called death grip, where a lot of men can also run into ED or P like issues, erection issues, because what happens is when they hold their penis, the grip is so strong, and when they try to have intercourse with the female vagina, where the grip is not so strong,
Right.
they're so used to that intensity that they are not able to, reach that level of intensity with a female, and then they don't get it up. So that's where the hyper focused act of masturbation, that is a localized act, like it starts with the genitals, ends with the genitals, and it excludes the rest of the body. And that is where a man's stimulation or arousal is not good enough for him to stay at that peak. That's where the premature ejaculation happens, because instantly a man's body is aroused, it goes to the peak and it comes back. But instead, the speed it has to be like valleys and peaks. We always talk about peaks in sex. Why don't we talk about valleys in sex? So it has to be like this. It has to be like a way where you are building it up and it's going and staying at a level. And that training has to start with the self sex. So for a man, I recommend that you don't ignore the rest of your body. Have a whole body approach to masturbation and pleasure. And same for the woman. Not many people know that our whole body has 650,000 touch receptors.
Okay.
There is so much of potential to feed pleasure because of there are so many touch receptors. So instead, what porn has done is like again going back. It's like just focus, stay on the genitals, focus on the genitals. That's the problem that men do. They think masturbation is just genital stimulation. I'll say masturbation is the whole body pleasure.
Right. True. True. Very true. Even in this case, I'd like to mention when discussions of erogenous zones happen, a lot of women say that we don't know what a different part would feel like. Even genital, I'm not very sure. That being said, I don't even know about other parts. So oh, well, shoulder actually feel good. Oh, okay, I've never explored, I've never tried. That sort of very mechanical sex that would have been happening in their lives, that
Yeah.
no other organ would have even, or part of the body would have even explored. Yeah. Now, since we are on the topic of masturbation, we have to discuss NoFap. As a movement, what is happening? We are in the month of November. What are your comments about NoFap?
Yeah, so I like I said, I run this community where I get witness to so many conversations that's are happening. And there was this man who was saying, "Don't worry, 20 more days to go, stay on track." They are cheering up each other to say that you are doing something which is like worthy of accomplishments, regulation. They see it as a restraint and more like having that patience on your own sexual arousal. There was a man, he said, "I'm just waiting to see how I explode at the end of 30 days." That was, I can still see that, okay, he's like waiting for the peak explosion. However, it is, in a Harvard study says that to avoid the risk of prostate cancer, you need to masturbate or release the ejaculation for a certain intervals in a month or a week, because it's like also a prostate gland exercise. Many men, they don't know that it's healthy for a prostate gland too, because the prostate gland is functioning. And when you stop this functioning, the prostate gland also stops functioning in a certain way.
Right.
And that leads to the increase of risk of prostate cancer.
Okay.
So that information is something, because NoFap is just seen as like one more I will say, just like the bike rides, while bike rides, when men go for the bike ride, they see NoFap as a movement. It's like a macho movement, it's like boys only movement. They don't see the other side of it. So a lot of them do it for the thrill of it, or do it for, again, how many of these beliefs are backed by science. How NoFap started was, there was a man whose girlfriend went away for like some 30 days, and she said, "You are not going to ejaculate in my absence." And he started a thread on a bodybuilding.com forum where he said that it's so difficult for me to restrain from ejaculating because she has made me promise. And there were men who just started commenting viciously, "Oh, you should dump her, or you should assault her. When she comes, I teach her a lesson." So it became like a boys only talk, boys talk.
Okay.
And that's how it gained virality and popularity. So I see NoFap more as a viral movement rather than as something science-backed movement.
Okay. Okay. I also tried exploring what it is, because we are not boys, we are not men, we don't have the lived experience of what men go through in terms of their sexuality, how often they want to release, or how often they are, filled with lust and they want to just, finish it off or whatever. So we don't have that lived experience. So I went through a lot of conversations and, discussions on it. And one thing I was happy with was, I saw it more of as a self-control mechanism, and how they were, bringing in some kind of discipline into their lives. And let's say, for example, they are purely filled with sexual thoughts.
Correct.
They should figure out to do something else to get away from those thoughts. So a sense of purpose, a lot of people have mentioned. I'm motivated to do something else. I'm suddenly not thinking about this as much. Or yes, in the beginning I used to think about it, but then it took a lot of courage for me to, block these thoughts, and not block it, but probably manage it and then get back to something else. So from that angle, I would still encourage people to try, because maybe yes, maybe they do feel their testosterone is getting up, or coming up, or Of course, there was one small study that said a minute increase is there, but nothing large enough for us to come to a conclusion. But if they personally feel it, I would totally go with it. Because I'm somebody who, keeps talking about this concept called autonomy. So at the end of the day, it is your body, your rules, you get to decide. And if you feel a certain thing, and if you think this is helping you in a certain way, I think you should just do it. Should not listen to other people who would say NoFap is nothing, it is just a mockery thing, it is just a placebo or whatever. If that person feels it's working for them, I think they have to just go ahead and try it. Something to get some self-control. Don't we all want self-control and discipline in our lives, right? So I take it very positively that way, I feel. Now, coming back to the interesting part of sexuality, which today a lot of sex therapists and sex coaches and intimacy coaches and embodiment coaches, so many people are talking about it. Even spiritual people are also talking about it, which is Tantra and Taoism and conscious sexuality and all of that. Could you please give your comments on what?
Yes, so Tantra and Taoism, Tantra originated in India, Taoism originated in China. And this is like thousands of years back of knowledge and practices that ancients they did. And Tantra is that's the myth about Tantra is all about sexuality. Tantra is about union, which is like a spiritual union, which is can be a sexual union. This is where the sex comes in. That through sex you can unite with yourself, you can unite with the another human being. And Tantra talks about union. Tantra comes from the Sanskrit word Tantra, which means to weave. So weaving in internally, becoming one with the other person, with the humanity and the existence. So it's like all in one, like the feeling oneness. And that I think, that orgasm is also about oneness, where all the barriers dissolve and you feel like you get into that space of mindlessness and absolute no thought. So Tantra talks about, letting go of the barriers with other people, and it can be achieved in multiple ways. And there are tantric practices which use body as a way to achieve that. And because Christianity has shamed body, the Victorian era, the body was shamed and said that you have to achieve enlightenment, you have to let go of your urges, you have to let go of bodily lust and all that. And Tantra says to achieve enlightenment, everything has to be accepted. There is no shaming of any part of human life.
There's a time and place for everything.
Yes. So I do feel there is a lot of space for Tantra, but what has happened, Swati, is like we are dabbling in a, right now I'm talking about as of now in this time, we are dabbling between obsession and repression. Like it's like a pendulum, either we are obsessed or we are repressed or we are somewhere there. So Tantra is also misutilized in terms of being infamous. Like a lot of people, they think Tantra is about massages. It's like, they say, do you give Tantra massage? So Tantra massage, again, they use like, okay, it's a ecstatic massage experience, but where that can include a happy ending. So what I see is in our society, most people are like hovering between two extremes like a pendulum when it comes to sex. One is obsession and one is repression. Like there are lot of people who are repressed about sex, who have not explored sex, and there are a lot of people who are obsessed about sex. And when it comes to Tantra, I see both these behaviors, like a lot of people misuse Tantra to to cater to those obsessed people, like Tantra massage centers. Tantra massage, it's like here and there, everywhere, I'm like, there are teachers who are like sexy dresses and they say, I'm offering a Tantra massage, and which involves lingam massage and yoni massage, which is fine that they have a therapeutic, approach to approach. But when you're just showcasing that as the like, okay, you come here, you'll get a lingam massage, or you are going there with that intention that someone is going to touch my lingam or touch my yoni and I'll feel good. I think that's where you are misrepresenting Tantra. So this is where I see a lot of these centers have mushroomed across the country and abroad, where people want that elaborate, ecstatic lingam massage experience, which is again coming to the fact that these men are not getting that in their homes. Or because they have a spoiled relationship with their partner, they are looking at spending money and getting that. It's just a sophisticated massage parlor is what they have done. Now, the other end, where there are real Tantra teachers with real intention, there you don't use so much of explicit sexuality. It comes with time. It doesn't happen that day one you are starting with massage or you're starting with those intense physical acts. Tantra involves mindfulness. Tantra involves connecting with your body. Tantra involves a lot of sensual exploration, lot of expression. Like, there is a lot of cathartic activities. Tantra was definitely popularized by Osho in India, where a lot of these Osho followers, they were into these group meditations, which was all about cathartic meditations. You will see, in the videos, like there's this
Screaming and crying.
yeah, screaming, crying, letting it out, where they say that these are the blocks to orgasmicness. If you're holding repressed emotions inside, repressed anger, how can you be orgasmic? So what Osho did and Tantra did was, he was linking everyday behavior to sexuality, which it is. Sexuality is our core. Like, we are sexual beings. So a beautiful, Tantra has many practices for couples, like something simple as which is called as a journey of senses, where you are taking time and exploring every sense, where it is the sense of sight. So they say, if you are seeing something, look at it with, like, love, or if you are touching something, feel it. So they say, add more feeling, make more slow. Like, when you are using your senses, we use our senses all the time, but we are so fast. Like, if you are having a bath, you're thinking about something else, or lot of people, when they eat, they are on the
Mindless activities.
So Tantra says, bring more mindfulness, consciousness into sex, into your body, into your living.
Okay. Like yoga, it's like, no, it should be part of everyday life, not only when you do the asanas.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So thank you about that, Pallavi, because so many people had that question. They get to hear it everywhere, but then they are not able to fully understand what it is, and they won't go for classes and proper sessions also because they are scared of what is going to happen there. Is it a good place to be, and etc. So I think this kind of clarifies it. I think they should just do their research about what this place actually offers and whether they actually are aware of the tantric practices in reality. Are they doing the right
Yeah.
thing? Yeah, I think they should do their own research, I would say. So thank you so much, Pallavi, once again for another beautiful conversation on self-pleasure practices, NoFap, and Tantra also, because so many people had this question. Yes, so that brings me to the closing note of today's session, which is again about mindfulness. Regulate whatever behavior you're doing, regulate your emotions in the right way. Like she said, don't go to these extremes of being repressed or being obsessed. Find that middle ground, and if you're able to clearly learn about these concepts from people like her, or from courses, or from books, then I think they can sexually empower themselves about all these things instead of watching porn and blindly believing whatever you see there. And even NoFap or such practices, I would say, for somebody who is exploring the spiritual side of their life, if they find value in it, I would say you need to probably try it out, because there are a lot of sports people and a lot of fitness oriented people who say that they were on this penance and self control for many months, and they could find benefits. So I mean, who are we to say it is not beneficial when they found it beneficial? So I would say, just do it if you find meaning in it, purpose in it, if it is giving you a sense of direction in life, if it is taking your mind from all your constant lustful thoughts and everything, because I think that is also a huge problem these days. Men are not able to look at women in the eyes and talk, Pallavi. That's also there, so human connection is missing because of this porn and jerking off to porn. Even anxiety, for that matter, a lot of people do not understand the difference between anxiety and sexual arousal, because both might feel the same. One is general arousal, one is sexual arousal. So I think if you tap into your bodies and listen to the body will clearly tell you what it needs at that point of time, whether it needs some other kind of support or whether it actually needs masturbation. So I'm sending you all a lot of hugs and healing vibes from my side. Thank you so much, Pallavi, for this conversation. Thank you, everybody.